Noise gates. Where do we put a noise gate? How does a noise gate work? What will a noise gate do? Will a noise gate stop my amp from hissing? Will a noise gate stop my amp from feeding back? Okay, now whenever you're dealing with high gain amps, especially tube amps, you're going to get hissing and you are going to get feedback. Especially if you've got your 100-watt head on something like 3, in a venue and it's only a small stage and you are stood 2 foot away. Okay, even in this big room where I rehearse, if I didn't have a noise gate on, I'd get feedback. Some amps don't get it. Off the top of my head, a message-dual rectifier, for instance, if you use that without a gate, without an overdrive in front, you probably won't need a gate. You can get away with it. I don't like them that way, but messes aren't too fizzy and hissy and noisy anyway. I don't know why, but you get away with it with those amps. Most other amps, PVs, Engels are really bad for it. They've got built-in noise gates, some of them. EVHs, JVMs, Marshall JVMs are the noisiest heads on earth. Okay, EVHs again, they're pretty noisy. They're up there with the really noisy amps, but we all know we need to use a noise gate. I'm going to show you now what a noise gate does and why you'd want to put it somewhere. Now, first of all, this is the noise gate that I use and I've been using a long time, and it's fantastic. It's the original ISP decimator. Okay, it's a great pedal and it works, for me, really, really well. Now, I've used Boss noise suppressors. They're great as well. Smart gate, the MXR Smart gate, I did not get on with at all. I don't know why I couldn't get that thing to work. I couldn't get that thing to do the job I needed it to do. Now, to try and do this video super quick, because you want the information, you want to get off here and you want to go try it out and put your noise gate, find out where you want it best. First of all, most gigs, if not nearly all, that I've done over the last 4 years, something like that, I have had a limited pedal board in front of me. Maybe my guitar, tuner, wah, boost, decimator, amp. Now what this does is, when you want to do something staccato riff, a riff with basically those stops and gaps in, this enables you to stop in those gaps without whoop. Yeah, you've all had it. That noise, that feedback, that boop, comes all the time, every 2 minutes, every time you stop playing, and it's annoying. And that's what this does, and it is absolutely amazing for doing it. You can even just set it on halfway, which is 30 on this pedal for some reason, like that. Boom, there you've got your noise cut off. The lower you have that gate set, the better it will be. The lower you can get away with it set. Okay, all depends on how close you are to your amp, how loud your amp is, how much gain you've got on, all those kind of things. Okay, even with a boost in front, this will do the trick. Now, if you want rid of hiss, which is when you're not playing, when the standby's not on standby and it's going shh, and all your band members are trying to have a conversation, you're all stood there like that, like I do regularly, because, like I say, I usually use this in front of the amp. It's like this shh, and when you turn it off, when you've been on, 3 or 4 on your amp head, and when you turn it off, everybody in the room just goes, because it feels amazing, because you don't realise how loud that hiss can be. Now, at a gig, there's that much noise going on, and songs are generally not got massive gaps in between and stuff. It's never really bothered me personally, or no one's ever said anything that's ever watched any of my gigs. But sometimes when you're sound checking, you do get the sound man going, something's hissing, man, stop the hissing now. And the hissing, I just go, well, is it bad? What's it like? Can we deal with it? Is it fine? And he'll be like, well, you won't hear it when you're playing. Obviously, when you're playing, the hiss goes away. So for me, gig-wise, it's much easier to not put anything in a loop and just put this in front of the amp. Okay? Basically, the rule here is you put a gate in front of the amp. It helps with feedback. You put a gate in the loop behind the amp, in the effects loop between the preamp and the power amp, and what it stops is that hiss, which is your preamp hissing. Okay? Now, if you put it in the loop, it can also help the feedback problem as well, depending on how bad it is and how much gain you are using. The best thing, which I will just point this out actually, there are pedals that can go in front of the amp and also in the loop as well. Obviously that way you don't need to buy 2 gates. If you want rid of hiss and feedback, you don't need to buy 2 gates for this, because you can get a pedal like this. This is a really cheap Behringer pedal. if you can see it, it's basically, it's called a noise reducer. It's basically like the Boss NS2 noise suppressor. It's basically the same thing as that. It's just in a cheaper, really cheap casing, housing. And one thing I will say is that the battery connection on the inside don't last 2 minutes. But this pedal is really old, and a pedal does still work. It just needs to be powered. So what you can do with this is you put it in front of your amp with these two sockets here, and the other two sockets go from your send and your return in between. So basically you're using one gate and it's solving two problems. Okay, now you can get a decimator as well. I think it's a decimator 2 that has the send and return connections, as well as the ones that will just be an input and output going into the front of your amp. Now what I will say is that this is okay, but it does mean that you can only have one setting on your gate. Now, to get rid of hiss, you'd be surprised if you've never used a gate before how low you can have the gate control, or the, in this case a noise reduction control. You'd be surprised how low you need that to get rid of the hiss. You don't need it, say, as much as you would need it on for feedback in front of your amp. So, although these pedals that do both are great, ideally, if you want to be perfect about everything and you don't want to be fighting with your gate then and you're resetting it all the time and stuff like that, ideally, really what you need is 2 gates. Yeah, one in front and one in the loop as well. Now, the ISP decimator, there's another gate which I can recommend. By the way, ISP, which I'm recommending you to get, I am nothing to do with. I'm not endorsed with them. I've got no affiliation with them whatsoever. People have started commenting saying, well, you're an endorser of EVH, so you're always plugging their stuff. Well, yeah, because I'm bound to buy that stuff, aren't I, if I'm endorsed with it. But I wouldn't buy it if I didn't like it, and I wouldn't have anything to do with them if I didn't like it. So what I'm saying is the ISP decimators are great. There's a G string out, which is really good because that means you can change to clean and you're not stomping on off gates. Now this gate is not too bad anyway. It's quite good when you go on to clean. It doesn't cut off your notes too much. It doesn't cut them off dead. You can get away with some clean as long as you're hitting pretty hard, but you won't have much sustain on the clean if you've got it on a gain type setting. If you get the G string, I've not tried it, but it's pretty good. I've heard it, and so, you can play clean through that, and it knows. Somehow it knows. Some gates, what I call like intelligent. They're more intelligent than other gates. Okay. Nothing against MXR. I love their pedals, but the MXR Smart Gate, I can't work that thing. It's not too smart for me, or at least I'm not smart enough for that thing. Now, the difference between noise reduction and a noise gate is that with a gate, it's just like what it sounds like. The gate is turning on and off. The gate is opening and closing at a certain volume, certain decibels that come through. It just shuts it off. Now, I find this really intelligent, this pedal, because it seems to know when I want noise. I've got a whammy bar on my guitar live, and I use it a lot in between songs to make, not divos or anything, but just make noise with, and I need feedback for that. For some reason, if I walk over to my amp, my gate knows that I'm wanting to use that noise, and I'm wanting that noise, and it's good noise. It knows, and I can still do that with this pedal, and I have been doing it for years. The noise reduction pedal, or suppression, like the Boss suppressor, which is a very good pedal, that one is kind of different because it's got a switch on, and I think you can turn it to whether you want it to act like a gate or whether you want it to be more of a suppressor. And when it's a nice suppressor, it does work, but as you move with your guitar, like if I've got an ISP decimator that I'm using and I'm moving around with my guitar, if I take my hands off my guitar, I can move like this. Unless I really bang the guitar, it doesn't make any noise, no noise comes through. Whereas if you have a Boy's noise suppressor, because it's only suppressing the noise, if you start moving around like this with your hands off your guitar, it can kind of sense it and it starts doing some funny little, the noise starts breaking through and you can hear, not a gate, but the reduction trying to fight and want to know what to do, okay? Now, each to their own. It's up to you, but I'm now going to show you exactly the difference between putting it in front of the amp and putting it in the effects loop. catch you in a minute. Okay, so I hope you can hear me over the hiss now. We're sat very close to the amp. I've turned the mic up on the camera pretty loud, but it should be picking it up. All that hiss there. We are on the blue channel on the EVA. That hiss is normal. There's a bit of interference because there always is. I don't know why, but when I come near my heads with pedals, especially using this lead here, there's always a bit of interference, so you can hear some buzzing as well. But for now, this is on halfway, okay? The decimeter's on halfway. This is in the loop, and this is what it will do. That's what it does, okay? Now, if we turn this gradually down, you will see, I hope you can see, how far I have to go. The hiss comes back there on, it's here. Okay, so it's on about a quarter. And it's reduced a hell of a lot there, just over a quarter. Nowhere near half still, and that's good enough for anyone. So it's not going to squash any of your tone or your power down, because some gates really suck the power out of your amp. Put it up to halfway and sure as hell the hiss is definitely gone. So that's how it works in the loop, and that's what it does. It will also quash a bit of feedback, but not totally, okay? Depending on how close you are to your amp, excuse me, I'm on my dinner, and how much volume you've got and how much gain you've got. It's all things that contribute to noise. So that's what it does in the effects loop. I'll show you now what it does in front of the amp. Okay, the gate now is in front of the amp. You can hear the hiss. The hiss is back because we have moved the gate. It's not effective on hiss anymore because it's not in the loop. It's in front of the amp. I've got my Sandemers here. I'm sat on top of the amp so you can hear the hiss and the feedback. My amp's on just over 2. It's pretty loud. It's going to feed back in a minute, so I don't deafen myself. I'm going to hit the gate as soon as I possibly can. Okay. There you go. That's what the noise gate does. Now, you can affect it with taking your hands on and off the strings, but as you can see, look, I have no hands on these strings and there is no feedback, and you cannot get any closer to your amp than this. I am on top of this thing now. Now, that for me personally is what I like about the ISP decimator, because it's that good at that. It's on halfway. I probably don't need it that high. I could probably scrub a little bit off. But that's what a noise gate does. You need to find out which noise you want rid of, which bothers you the most. Obviously, when my amp's hissing like this, the ideal situation is you put a foot switch and you just bump it to clean. Okay, to get rid of the hiss, you know, in between songs, when people are talking in here, you hit the foot switch, you turn it to clean. I can't be bothered plugging my foot switch in, so my bandmates have to suffer. Please like, comment and subscribe below. If you have any other videos or questions you want to ask me, put it in the comments below, and please leave me a thumbs up because I need them. I can't carry on doing this without any thumbs up.